Well, hey friends, welcome to another episode of Campus Ministry Today. I hope you're doing great, and wherever you're at, it's a beautiful day on campus. My name's Clayton, and I'm your host today. And you guys pray for me. My co-host, Steve Shadrack, as you guys know, the godfather of campus ministry. He's not here. He is actually in Asia. I think he's on country number 4 of his 7-country tour, equipping and training collegiate ministers. So I'm flying solo today, guys. So bear with me. But our guest today is one of my favorite people in the world. And so I'm excited for you to hear from my good friend, Kennedy Kirui. And so Dr. Kennedy Kirui. And so Kennedy, how are you doing today, friend?
I'm doing great, Clayton, and thank you so much for hosting me here today. And
oh my goodness, we're glad you're here. So Kennedy, so those that are listening, those that see this on YouTube are like, hey, Kennedy is not our traditional Western guest. And those listening are like, that accent, is that like a Louisiana accent? Is that like a Northwest accent? So Kennedy, real quickly, kind of tell us who you are, where you're from, and what kind of ministry you're doing, and where in the world are you?
Yeah, thank you, Clayton. So my name is Kennedy Kirui. I am a missionary from Kenya, and I live and serve God in Uganda. I'm involved in student ministries, and my journey actually to student ministry was very much inspired by Steve, and so I'm here as well of Steve Shadrack's influence. I lead a movement, a student movement called University Discipleship Movement, UDM. So I am the founder and executive director, but also pastor a student church just for the last 22 years, and God has been so good. I'm married to Lillian, whom I met at campus. She's a Kenyan like me, but we met in Uganda. We have a son, Gabriel, who is 9, and we also live with our niece, Marlene. And so God has been so good, and so I'm so excited to be here.
Kennedy, I love it. So what I heard from your story is that, one, you met your wife on campus, which yes. Which is the story of so many campus ministry leaders. I found my wife and I found my calling, and I got a degree in the process. Exactly. But you founded a ministry. So UDM, you guys are in 4 countries. Is that correct?
Yes, you're correct. We are in 4 countries. The work started in Uganda, and then we moved to Kenya, but also now we are in Zambia and Democratic Republic of Congo.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So tell us what is God doing in UDM these days? I mean, and some of that maybe, how long have you guys been around? Tell us the breadth and the depth of what's happening.
So the campus ministry, the church that I pastor, began in 2003. And that began with me as a student, just trying to figure out how to follow Jesus on campus as a new student from Kenya. But then God continued to refine the vision for me. And when I met with Steve Shadrack sometime in Nairobi, and he was talking about the fuel and the flame, God just caught my heart for campus ministry. And I made a very radical decision to follow Jesus in this path. And so in 2013, we started UDM as an organization, because we had tried to expand as a church, and we realized that we are facing resistance with Muslim universities and other places. So we started UDM as a vehicle that can help us to do evangelism, discipleship, and missions from university campuses. God is doing amazing things through UDM, and I'm just so humbled that I can be a small part of what God is doing. There's still a lot of openness in African universities to evangelism. Students are very open. So we have a lot of students that are actually coming to the faith on a daily basis. And so we rejoice and thank God for that. There is just a posture of just spiritual hunger that we see in our students. And so we also see a lot of students that are committing to discipleship, and our staff are doing a wonderful job just creating those spaces for them and providing opportunities for them to grow. So that's what I'll say. The other thing I'll also say, Clayton, is that we see kind of God awakening a missional anger, among the students in Africa. This is something that for a long time, we when we talked about missions, we looked at people like you because
Mm.
for a long time, we knew missions as coming from the West to the rest. But we see most students, even in Africa, starting to see that this is a time for them as well to actually respond to the call of missions. And we see that mission awakening, and we thank God for that. So a lot of good things are happening, Clayton.
My goodness. And that's amazing. And Kennedy, I always love listening to you talk about campus and ministry because your heart and your passion come through. And it's super inspiring. So I just appreciate what UDM's doing and what God's doing through you guys. Now, you and I got to spend you met Steve in Nairobi. And so shout out Steve if you're listening to this, Fuel the Flame. But you and I met together in Nairobi, and we were at the African Missions Conference Association conference together. And you did a talk on Gen Z, how to reach and disciple Gen Zers. And it was amazing. I really, what I love about that is there were so many countries there, like 40 different countries, and your workshop was full and people leaning in and listening and taking notes. So I thought, could you share with us a couple of kind of those key points of what it takes to reach this generation of university students?
Yeah, thank you. Once again, I just want to appreciate the opportunity. That meant a lot for me. That you gave me a platform to actually speak about something that I love very much, and some of the core things I think we shared at the Africa Mission Conference about reaching and discipling Gen Z, especially the students that I work with and I've worked with for a long time. I think for me the
Mm,
major thing actually is the need to shift our posture. The posture that we come with as we engage the students and the young people, even before we think about strategy, is that we need to show up differently. We need to,
mm,
because they are different generation than probably the other generations that we have reached, especially for people like us who have been in the campus for a long time. And some of the things that I think we shared is, I think over the years, I've realized that in reaching Gen Z, one of the things that needs to happen is that for them, presence matters more than programs. They really, it's not about the programs as it's about you showing up. They care about authenticity,
mm.
and they can notice very quickly when you're not being authentic with them.
Yeah,
They're not necessarily like looking for polished events to come to. They're looking for people who are available for them. They're looking for people who are consistent. They're looking for people who are genuinely interested in their lives.
yeah,
So that's something that I see with Gen Z, and that's what I'm saying. I think our posture matters a lot when we approach Gen Z, and so over the years, even for myself, I've had to make some of those shifts to realize that,
yeah,
yeah, the students I started with 20 years ago are very different with the students that I'm engaging right now. Um, and a lot of ministry there for them, for Gen Z, happens around conversations, creating
mm,
spaces where they can have shared experiences and just allowing them to ask the questions that they have, and they have many questions. And then the other thing I think we discussed about reaching Gen Z in the Africa Mission Conference is that our discipleship needs to be holistic and honest, in the sense that this generation doesn't want shallow answers to the deep questions that they have. And so they have questions that probably need to address every area of their lives, not just spirituality, but also questions that deal with their mental health, questions that deal with loneliness that they're wrestling with, questions that deal with identity and purpose. And so they want leaders who admit that they don't have it all figured out, but also can share their journey of how they have come to where they are. And I think that's what I
yeah,
see every time, and every time I speak to them is that one of the things they say is that I like it because you're real, because when you come and show it up that we have it all figured out, they can't see themselves in that story of transformation, and so that's something I see. And then the other thing I have observed, and I think we shared, is that Gen Z are really searching for purpose in their
right.
lives, and they're asking questions like, "Why am I here? What difference can my life make?" And so, reaching them means helping them to see that following Jesus is not just a question of personal salvation, but also is getting involved to something bigger. because I think most Gen Zs they really want to change the world, and so. But I think we tell them, before Jesus can use you to move the world, probably you may be the mountain that Jesus needs to move first, and so we need to help them to realize that, and help them to connect to the big kingdom purpose that God is calling them into. And then the last thing I think I can say in relation to that is, all of us are, like people say that Gen Z are the most connected people
Right.
globally in terms of, the social media. They are very connected, but yet also very isolated. And so community is very essential as we think about reaching Gen Z. That they are very digitally connected, but deeply longing for belonging.
Mm.
And so creating spaces where there's healthy, sometimes multi-generational, multi-ethnic, communities where students, they can be known, they can be challenged, they can be empowered. I think this is very necessary for long-term discipleship. So I think those are just a few highlights that I can remember from the
Yeah.
conversation. I hope that's helpful.
No, that's super super important. And what I continue to I love is that as I talk with you and some of our friends across Asia and Latin America, and then just in our context here, that's the story all of us are saying. Gen Z is isolated, connected, seeking purpose, mental health, mental illness. Like these are all key things, and so it just reinforces this is a global generation.
Yeah,
That a
yeah,
lot of what you do with your African students is similar to what is working or what needs to happen in a U.S. context or a Latin America context or an Asia or Europe context. And so that's
yeah.
tremendous insight.
Yeah, maybe what I'll add, Clayton, is just to say also that I think Gen Z, they don't just want to be discipled as well. I think what I've observed as well, and many of my friends, even here in Africa, see is that whereas they want to be discipled, they also want to be activated. They want to be sent. They want to be given opportunities. And so I believe that I grew up in a generation that, yeah, basically, it took a while before they could trust me with responsibilities. But I think
Hmm.
we need to trust Gen Z. We need to give them responsibility. We need to invite them into leadership. We need to disciple them on the mission, and model for them that, both discipleship and also mission. Because God is already at work in this generation. We see
Yeah,
what God is doing across the world, and God is at work. And so our role is just to come alongside them and faithfully invest in them, and just be on mission with them.
yeah. Gosh, yeah, that's great. So Kennedy, like you gave us some really good points, kind of broad strokes of these are kind of characteristics of Gen Z, and this is what we need for them to feel like they belong. But give us a couple, three or four key ingredients when UDM meets and we say, all right, we want to take this student we've just reached, and how do we establish them, equip them, and develop them into disciple makers? Kind of what are those key ingredients for you that you see to develop disciple makers?
Yeah. Um, I think part of what I would say, I see even in Africa, and as we do with UDM, um, I think just like what I've really loved with VIA is the EDM, and
Mm.
discipleship will always, begin with evangelism. And so we continue to just create spaces and opportunities to give every student an opportunity to hear and respond to the gospel. And so
Mm.
so we utilize every opportunity that's available, whether it's one-on-one, conversations. We organize events where we invite students, and we don't shy away from sharing the gospel in a way that's relevant and applicable, and attractive to them. Um, and so that's something that we do on a daily basis. Our staff, knocking doors is still accepted, to knock doors
Okay.
in the dormitories, and just share, have gospel conversations, and we see God saving students every day. Even some from different faiths like Islam are coming to Jesus. So we do that, and primarily we focus on relational evangelism. We don't just look at people as projects, say, I
Right.
got this number, but we invest in genuine relationships that can facilitate not just gospel conversations, but also lead into disciple making. And yeah, and then with evangelism, then we create spaces for discipleship. and just
Yeah.
we organize our discipleship around one-on-one engagements. We organize around small groups. So we run a lot of small groups in different student residence places. We call them hostels here in Africa. I think you call them
Okay.
dorms in other parts of the world.
Hmm.
So we have a lot of small groups that are happening, and we realize that those are very powerful transformational spaces for our students here. A lot of transformation happens when students do life together, when they read the word together, when they provide spaces for accountability, spaces of encouragement, spaces where they can be able to build meaningful relationships, but also places where they can be on mission together. Because we try to encourage a missional dynamic in all our discipleship spaces. And then the other ingredient is to just provide students with opportunities to lead. They have spiritual gifts, so we call out, we help them to see their abilities and the opportunities that God has provided, and we provide opportunities for them to start leading today, either by going back to do evangelism among their friends, participating in different leadership roles within the campus fellowships. Um, because yeah, we know, today's students are tomorrow's leaders, but then we have to create space for them to start leading right now. And I think Gen Z, especially in Africa, because they are the majority, they don't like for us to say you're leaders for tomorrow, because they are like over 70% of the population. So they're the leaders for today, and so we create that opportunity for
Right.
them to. And then the other ingredient is just the missional ingredient, is creating opportunities immediately for the students to be sent. And,
Okay.
yeah, and how we do that is that we create social justice avenues where they can participate in that. We also go to high schools and primary schools. So each of our ministry, our mission is to invite, disciple, and send. And so we are always sending, and we create that opportunity immediately. And then we organize mission trips to different parts of our countries, especially the remote places, the unreached people groups. And Clayton, it's amazing what God does, because these are African students, but they go to other parts of Africa that they say they have never seen anything like that, and God does.
Hmm.
It becomes a very incarnational space where God does amazing things in their lives, and so they don't come back the same way they left, but also we don't leave the community the way we left. So it's always a wonderful space. So evangelism, discipleship, leadership, empowerment and opportunity, and then missional opportunities.
There we go. I love it.
Yeah.
Kennedy, I feel like this was not the intent. For those of you listening, this was not the intent because Kennedy, you just kind of gave us a great, you're like the EDM commercial, and that was not intentional, friends. But I love it because what I hear you say is, we go to them, we share the gospel. You don't just wait for them to come to us, but like we are involved in the hostels, we're involved in the dorms, the residence halls. We create space for students to gather and hear from God's word, gather together and hold each other accountable, and then students to lead those things. And then we figure out how do we send them cross-culturally.
Yes.
Because the number of cultures in Africa is just a huge melting pot. So that's pretty amazing. So as you guys have done this, as I also love the fact that you said they outrank y'all. Gen Z is the majority of 70% of Africa is under the age of 30, which is a true stat and kind of staggering. Africa is the youngest continent and the most Christian continent. Yeah. And so what could God do when Africa awakes to the gospel and is sent by the gospel? But with that, you guys have you've kind of shared the gospel. You've invited them, you've made disciples, and then you've been sending kind of cross-culturally around the different countries in East Africa. Yes. But you guys are taking a big step in missions and are beginning to send cross-culturally, like across Africa. Yeah. Is that correct? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's correct, Clayton. Just like you rightly stated, Africa, as has been predicted for a while, that the center of gravity for Christianity has shifted to the global south, and that is we are witnessing that reality, that we have more Christians in the continent of Africa now than probably any other continent. That's in terms of numbers. But also majority of this population is young. 70% of the population is below 30. So it's a very youthful, young continent. But also majority of the Christians are young. So for us, that's an opportunity. It's an
Yeah.
opportunity to reach, disciple, and deploy. The a very powerful force for the kingdom.
Mm.
And so, as UDM, we notice that, just like with the student volunteer movement, the Moravians and others through history, we believe that universities are very critical places and spaces for mobilizing missionaries. And
Yeah.
so we are trusting God that God will actually raise so many missionaries as well through UDM, and just joining other ministries that are already doing that. So we've been in the process. It's been a difficult process. And people talk about reverse missiology, trying to change the way mission has been done. And so for us, it's like starting afresh to create the structures, to create the systems, both for in terms of recruitment, support raising, training and equipping, and then deploying. And so the challenges of, if we are the sending organization, trying to find the receiving agencies and organizations that can
Hmm.
provide, can receive our missionaries, can provide the member care support for them in the country, provide the logistical and operational support for them, but also just create opportunities for them to be able to serve. So that's been a journey that we've been praying and just walking into for a long time. And so it's been a wonderful thing to finally see come to a place where we have so many students who have gone missionally to other places, but to literally send cross-cultural missionaries. That's been very revolutionary and very life transforming for us as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so we thank God for that. It's been a learning curve, not an easy one, but it's been a rewarding and a good one as well. And so we keep trusting God to send more. We believe that it's time, to change, the trajectory of global missions, where we'll see people moving from the rest to the rest, and to see missionaries continue to come from the US and other parts to Africa, and to see people from Africa to other parts of the world. So just 2 weeks ago, we had a training to prepare students who are interested to go to the Middle East. And Clayton, quite a big number of our students have interest. So we have people who have served in that space, who have trained. So we can only but wait to see what God will do.
That's
Um,
right.
so we believe Africa is rising, even
Yep.
in the aspect of missions as well. So thank you for investing in us, and thank you for the friendship that allows us to learn some of the best practices that is happening, especially through VIA and other ministries.
Oh, Kennedy, it's exciting to see you guys, which historically us as Westerners would say is the mission field,
Yeah.
turn into the mission force. And I think that's been amazing.
Yeah.
As a Westerner, we have students that, our church have Mission Week and different, organizations like go spend short term in the summer or go after you graduate, give 2 years. And for us in the West, we would say, we send missionaries. It's easy, it's quick. It's like, oh, you're graduating, you're going to do missions. Well, which of these 72 different mission organizations do you want to go with? And they have their own training and they have their own receiving and all these different things. It's like the runway and the airplane are already ready. We're just trying to find people to put in the plane to take off. And what I hear you saying, especially as we've talked, back and forth about the Middle East, trying to send Africans to the Middle East and across different parts. It seems like you guys have students or graduates that are excited, but now you're having to build the plane
Yeah.
to fly it. You're also having to build the pathway and the runway for the plane to take off. And so, Kennedy, I celebrate you guys. I celebrate what you're doing in UDM and friends. If you're listening to this, man, just realize that you're getting to hear kind of some Acts 13, Paul and Barnabas kind of first fruits being sent out kind of thing. And so, man, we're grateful for what God's doing in your ministry. And so thanks for letting us be a part of that and sharing that with us so we can pray for you.
Thank you, Clayton. And that's just the blessing of just working together and kingdom partnerships and just learning best practices from each other. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the friendship and the opportunity to serve alongside each other and to just empower and equip and support one another. So
Yeah.
that's very key for the kingdom.
Yeah, it is. And it's amazing, Kennedy, like when you, no matter what context, right? Friends, as you listen and you hear this, it doesn't matter what context or what country students receive the gospel and they realize it came to them on its way to someone else. And they gather in groups and they read scripture. Scripture has a way of lifting their eyes to the nations. No matter what nation they're from, it has a way of casting a bigger vision. And so that's pretty amazing. So, Kennedy, brother, thank you so much for your wisdom and your experience. Man, it's been an honor to hear from you. And friends, we hope you've enjoyed today's podcast, Campus Ministry Today. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, wherever you get your podcast, and be sure to check out viastudents.org for more resources, like Kennedy said, in evangelism, disciple making, missions mobilization. And our hope is that we get to come alongside of you as, you disciple and share, and you lead students back to campus and to the nations. And so until next time, thanks, friends.